Oh, hi there. Tonight I wanted to talk about Joker, the movie, played by Joaquin Phoenix. Robert De Niro was in it. It was released, probably about a week ago. Overall, it was an okay movie. There is going to be spoilers in this video, so if you don't like spoilers, then don't watch this video, I suppose. Because I am going to talk in detail about a lot of things in this movie. It delves into kind of a questionable subjects on certain things. It did put a new spin on the Joker by keeping him as the Joker. However, I was disappointed because through the whole movie, I mean, you could look at it as an origin story, or you could look at it as Joaquin Phoenix was playing second fiddle, because I believe that there was the real villain, and Joker was just subject to situation, circumstances, and a lot of negative experiences. Um, they made a very big point of displaying Joker as being erratic, irrational, impulsive, and that he'd had a rough time and he was acting out violently. I don't like this because it implies that persons with mental illness are all like that, and they're not. I know before the movie was released, that there was a lot of talk on the internet going, "Oh, we don't want a copycat shooter like they had at the Batman." Was it Dark Knight or Dark Knight Rises? One of the two. The Aurora shooter. They didn't want a copycat of that. And I could totally see why, but I don't see how the Joker specifically would bring that about. I mean, there are plenty of movies with gun violence in them. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of movies with grotesque violence in them. And this movie, it cleverly disguised lies. And this one villain who was most certainly behind the scenes in this movie and out of sight, out of mind kind of mentality. You don't see him, no one says his name, and it's like the movie's not about him. The Joker's the name of the movie, but he was playing second fiddle to Dr. Crane Scarecrow, the psychiatrist. Joker had spent time in Arkham Asylum, and at the end of the movie, he's back in Arkham Asylum, and his psychiatrist, probably, Dr. Crane, at least he was somewhere in the works, had all the evidence he needed to do basically anything he wanted with Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, Arthur. He could do anything to him at this point in time. And that wouldn't be an image that the mental health system wants to portray. They want it to be, kind of, he's getting his treatment, he's recovering, he's this, he's that. And that's what they say about people with mental illness, is that they're getting their treatment, yada, yada, they're bureaucratic officials, they're never wrong, and things like that. And they are. In this movie, Arthur was taking 8 different medications. There is a lot of medications with mental health. I know this because of my own experiences. However, usually there's only one medication that's psychiatric in nature, and then the rest are dealing with side effects and things like that. Just keep the money flowing, basically. So they make you take all kinds of horrible stuff. But usually it's only one that's psychiatric in nature or an antidepressant, because usually they cross. They don't mix very well. Although it's different from person to person. I noticed the physicality, the toll it took on Joaquin Phoenix. I mean, his body was mangled. They probably prop that up with a bit of CGI, but yeah, he was really he took his body took a beating in this movie to make this movie, and the thing is, he was able to run at great distance and with great speed. And that is highly unusual for a person taking psychiatric medication, because first thing is they want you to be immobile. They don't want you running around. You don't have all this extra energy. So usually you're crippled in one way or the other. And obesity is a real problem for mental health patients, because if your legs don't work particularly well, you're not really going to be doing cardio, you're not going to be running. And also, there's just a higher risk of diabetes and things like that with psychiatric medications and obesity. Those are very real problems. And in fact, in Broadmoor, almost all of the patients, that's the loony bin in the UK, are obese. Because that's the program they were on. I'm not going to say there isn't a mental health program where people can still run, still be active, still be fierce, because they don't paint everyone with the same brush, but it totally looks like they do. But they don't actually, and yeah. There's no way Arthur had those mental health problems, because he gave a notebook saying all kinds of things. And, like, they knew his personality type. They knew the medications he was on. He had a shadow following him wherever he went. Like, his co-worker friend hands him a gun, and at one point for self-protection and things like that, and obviously giving it to a guy like Arthur was a bad idea. But anyway, he drops it off in a kid's hospital while he was doing an act. He accidentally drops it, and it's like, no police caught on that. I mean, I realize this movie was supposed to take place in the day, like way back in the day. I mean, Bruce Wayne was only a boy. However, if I'm expected to believe that, then it's just absurd. There just isn't any way. But mental health believes in non-intrusion. However, they will completely more than intrude, but fucking just take over a situation if they feel as though that they are legally responsible. And there's no way Arthur was exhibiting those symptoms and they did nothing about it. No fucking way. And it begs the question is, why didn't the mental health officials, Dr. Crane, the doctor of fear, why didn't he do anything about it? And then, the big kill in that movie is Arthur shooting Robert De Niro's character. I forget his name now. I had heard from someone else who watched the movie that they believed that was all in his imagination. It was part of like a dreamlight sequence. I might have missed that part or not understood it. I mean, I'm going to be honest, I was 3 sheets to the wind when I watched the movie. I usually am when I watch movies. So that part might have escaped my comprehension because I was thinking of other things at the time. And, I pitched as a hypothetical, what if the psychiatric community, like Dr. Crane, who would be the head of it, who his name's never mentioned, he's not shown. I think it would have been better if he did make an appearance. Arthur only really talks to a mental health worker. I don't even remember her exact designation of what her job description was. Supposing those people manipulated the circumstances around Arthur, which is something they try to dodge in the making of this movie, what if they manipulated him into becoming this person who ultimately shoots Robert De Niro? What if they just wanted to get Robert De Niro for other reasons and they needed, well, we need a crazy person to go do it for us so that we don't get any of the blame? And psychiatrists, they're all about manipulation. That's what they do for a living. That, and they're assholes in so many levels. And then the promotion of the clown killer in the movie. And it's like, how did that happen? Gotham was a trash heap, right? So, like, all kinds of crazy shit happens all the fucking time. And it's like, why did they zero on this and make that the movement? It's like the Guy Fawkes thing, except it, didn't exactly have any historical reference to it. And at that point in time, you were working on the assumption that there was no Joker movie. It's not like V for Vendetta, where Hugo Weaving was, the portrayal of Guy Fawkes, even though Guy Fawkes never looked like him. So you go, there is evidence here that the Joker, Arthur, was manipulated into being this person. So, obviously you see corruption here. They're not trying to manipulate Arthur into being happy, to being a good citizen, or anything like that. They're manipulating him to do a job. And, it takes a very keen eye to notice that. Or maybe you're just a bit more familiar with the subject. The incel community, from what I heard, I watched a few videos here and there. This was supposed to be, like, they had to emphasize the Joker's not a hero in this movie, and he's not, but he was an idiot. He was an idiot who was controlled mentally by his circumstances and by some shadowy kind of thing, which is what mental health does, because they don't like to appear to be intruding on anything. That way they keep their hands clean no matter what happens. And at the end of the day, with Arthur going back to Arkham Asylum, you can see where this is going. A failed experiment by Dr. Crane, or maybe a successful one because he wanted to get rid of Robert De Niro for whatever reason. I might be breathing into that segment of the movie a little bit too much, but I found it suspicious that Dr. Crane was not mentioned at all in that entire movie, even though the movie's based on mental health and all that sort of stuff. And, a big reason why he wouldn't be mentioned is because he is a pivotal part of DC Comics. The thing is, it's not good image for the mental health system. It really isn't that there's a doctor out there that causes fear, chaos, and is just genuinely a villain. But they glossed over that. That's why they will never be a part 2 that's available to the mainstream media, the mainstream public. There'll never be one. But that's not to say that there won't be one that will be made. I think they are already in the works of making a Joker sequel, except this time he's in Arkham Asylum and all the horrors that are there. And only people of a higher echelon of society who have to obey rules and this and that, like I suppose hockey players, politicians, high-ranking police officers, yada, yada, yada. They get to see this next movie coming out, and you ask anyone, and they'll be like, what movie? This was a standalone movie. There's not going to be another movie. I'm sure I'd have been told about it if there were. Yeah. With the amount of things that people don't tell each other, and you don't think that, possibly there could be something going on that you don't know about. And that's the whole point I make about the Scarecrow and Dr. Crane, is that I didn't believe for a single solitary moment that he wasn't there in on the scene. Yeah, you never saw him though. But he was most certainly there. Arthur was a unique case, and it's like they built him up to tear him down. And that's exactly what happened. And, that may not be the end of the Joker as far as him as a person, although he's going to hell for what he did. Straight up. If he thought, getting beat up by those punk teenagers or getting fired from his job or any of that was really bad, he didn't know anything compared to what's going to happen to him in the next chapter. And, they even presented him as almost being a little bit happy that he was in Arkham. And it's like, no, you're not going to be happy there. It's going to be a horrifyingly horrible experience. And, I think that there are nefarious forces out there that somehow escape punishment, ridicule, criticism. They avoid all these things, and they prey on the weak-minded. That's how people become involuntary celibates in the first place. It's because they're weak-minded. This is kind of a creepy subject for me because, I became an involuntary celibate for different reasons, obviously. However, they did emphasize in the news that this was supposed to be big in the incel community, and it will probably be promoted as such by people who are not actually involuntary celibates themselves. And it's because they want to paint the loser white guy usually as the dangerous one, because they're able to manipulate a situation to appear on the outside whatever they want it to look like. And as far as this Joker movie goes, this guy was unstable, blah, 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 blah. He acted on impulse. And, they have medications that dull impulse reactions. I mean, everybody has impulse reactions to some very small degree. For example, when I'm buying hockey jerseys, I will buy one and it'll take me probably 5 seconds to make a decision if I'm going to buy it or not. I've known people who take 5 minutes to pick what flavor of Dentyne ice they want. So I'm telling you, having a little bit of impulse is perfectly normal. A lot of people have it. Most people have it. All people have it, really. And I think if you don't have it, I think you're missing something from your psyche. I mean, women buy shoes and things like that, quite quickly when they see something that they like, for example. And, these medications can deliberately cause impulse reactions, which were all of Arthur Joker's killings. They were all based on impulse. And, that just further adds to the bureaucracy's manipulation of the poor, the weak, and the desperate to do their bidding. And since they're very, very evil people, they use these people, and those people who are used get nothing. Nothing. And, a situation like Arthur and Robert De Niro has never happened in today's society. I mean, I guess the closest one you could make a reference to was that guy who took a shot at Ronald Reagan. I guess there's a handful of other ones, but there's not really any that are based on, a talk show host. That was made up. And how would Arthur get anywhere near him if he was that unstable? How would he? And they wanted to make him look like he was being completely irrational because Robert De Niro was taking the piss out of him. But, I mean, you look at Robert De Niro and what he said about him, and it was fairly tame. I guess you're supposed to not really think that, people out there are assholes. And when you go and try and create something, like with me, with my YouTube channel, or anything, you try and do anything, there's always going to be an asshole there who's going to not actually do anything themselves, but criticize everything you do and take the piss out of you, which is what Robert De Niro did against Arthur. And, with these glaring, obvious things that I noted upon, I really think there should be a Joker 2, or just call the next one Scarecrow, and that will be the sequel. Because Scarecrow, he's been around in a few things, mostly the cartoon series and things like that, and he does need to be known about at some point, and to some degree, because there actually is villainous type people out there that are like Scarecrow. Yeah, because it doesn't matter if they believe in justice or anything like that. The fact that they're doing what they do for a living, and it doesn't matter what the rationale is behind why they do what they do, that's scary fucking shit. And if they start looking at people and start going, well, this person could be useful because of this reason, let's try and manipulate them into doing that, then you've got the seeds of fucking scary shit. Because there are a lot of fucking pickle mush heads out there who have very, very limited vocabulary, very limited social skills, and can easily be picked on. I would have thought in the 21st century we had grown past, society bullying people into, making things worse for themselves. But it does not appear to be so. And I found this aspect of the movie to be more interesting than, the Joker, losing his job, getting beat up by some thugs, having a hard time running around with a gun. I mean, it seemed like he didn't do very much. And the circumstances around him were greater than him. Therefore, he was expendable. Therefore, he can go into Arkham Asylum and never come out. And he was used. He was used. And Arthur was not a hero. He was a villain. But he was a lesser one. And I don't like the idea of the Joker playing second fiddle to Dr. Crane. I mean, Heath Ledger's Joker certainly didn't do that. Jack Nicholson's character certainly didn't do that. And, where is Harley Quinzel? Where's her? The female psychiatrist. Harley Quinn, where was she? I'm sure she exists too somewhere in the background. And they're like manipulative little spiders. They really are. Really creepy people who fucking never show their face. Like, it's like they hide under a rock and they just leap out at anything that they can get their hands on and get them to do their bidding without them directly asking them. And, like, that's dirty. Like, to quote Heath Ledger, even to a guy like me, that's cold. And, that's borderline really fucking creepy shit. Well, I thought that part of the movie was definitely something that should be brought up. And I think this painted the Joker as way too much of a loser. Because Heath Ledger's Joker was a winner. He didn't look like a fool at any point in time. He didn't win, obviously, but he didn't look like a fool, whereas this Joker looked like a putz. Total putz. I mean, it was a good movie, but he looked like he couldn't. Wasn't in control of anything. And, I don't know. I think it's a pat on the back for psychiatrists and things like that, and I think it's one that they didn't deserve. Anyway, I'll talk to you people later. Have a good one.